My sister was the miracle my parents treated me like collateral damage. Adam here. I'm writing this because I just watched my mom post one of those syrupy My Brave Miracle Girl videos again, and the comments were full of people calling her a saint. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my apartment with a cheap ramen cup, shaking with that specific kind of anger that makes your teeth hurt. My family always had 2 kids on paper, but in reality, it was like we had 1 kid and 1 extra piece of furniture that occasionally talked back. My sister Lily is 3 years younger than me. The story I've heard my whole life is that Lily's birth was a horror movie. Emergency C-section, weeks in the NICU, tubes, alarms, my mom crying in the hallway, my dad praying even though he never went to church. That story became the sacred text in our house. Everything revolved around it. Lily wasn't just a child, she was the miracle. My mom said it like a title. My dad said it like a password that got him out of parenting. And me? I was the before picture. I was proof they could make a kid without trauma, so I was basically irrelevant. If Lily screamed, it was her body remembering. If Lily threw things, it was sensory overload. If Lily lied, it was anxiety. If I got mad, it was attitude. My mom's cruelty was open, like she didn't even bother to hide it. "Don't start," she'd say to me with a flat voice that made my stomach drop, like my existence was an argument she'd already lost patience for. My dad wasn't violent or loud. He was worse in a quieter way. He'd look over his newspaper or his phone and just not pick a side, which was picking a side. I learned early that the house had rules, but they weren't written down. Rule 1, Lily is fragile. Rule 2, Mom is exhausted. Rule 3, Adam can handle it. That last one was the knife they kept twisting because it sounded like a compliment if you weren't paying attention. My first real memory of understanding the hierarchy is stupidly small. I was 8, Lily was 5, and my mom had just finished putting her hair in these perfect little pigtails for kindergarten photos. Lily grabbed my Game Boy off the kitchen table, dropped it, and the screen spiderwebbed. I didn't yell. I didn't even snatch it back. I just made this noise like a breath that got stuck. My mom turned around and said, "What did you do?" Not what happened, not are you okay, just straight to guilty. Lily's eyes immediately filled up like she had a switch in her head. "Adam made me," she sniffed, and I remember looking at her like I'd just discovered a new animal species. My mom marched over and hissed, "Why can't you ever just let her have something nice?" I tried to explain. I pointed at the crack, at Lily's sticky fingers, at the way she was already calming down because she knew she'd won. My dad walked in, took one look at my mom's face, and said, "Adam, apologize." That was the whole trial. That was the verdict. I apologized for something I didn't do because I didn't know there was another option. My mom then told me I'd have to pay for a new one with birthday money, which was hilarious because my birthdays were basically a footnote. Lily's birthdays were events, like themed decorations, giant cake, family photos that went on the wall. For mine, I'd get a card with my name spelled wrong and a speech about how tight money was because Lily's care comes first. Lily would sit there swinging her legs, eating frosting with her fingers, watching me get scolded like it was part of the entertainment. I didn't hate her at first. I tried not to. Kids want their siblings to be teammates. But it's hard to be a teammate when the game is who can get Adam punished faster. Elementary school was where it got practical. Lily had appointments all the time, real ones at first. Then later, I don't know. But the pattern stayed the same. My mom would pull her out of school for specialist visits and bring her home with a new toy or a milkshake because she was so brave. If I got sick, my mom would put a thermometer in my mouth, look at it like it was personally insulting, and say, "You're fine." I remember having the flu once, shaking under a blanket on the couch while Lily watched cartoons at full volume. I asked if she could turn it down because my head felt like it was splitting. Lily looked at my mom. My mom looked at me and said, "Don't be dramatic." Then she turned the volume up. Later, I threw up in the bathroom and my mom yelled because I missed the bowl. When I got older, I started doing things preemptively. I learned to make my own lunches, sign my own permission slips, hide my report cards if they were good, because it would just create a comparison I didn't want. Lily could bring home a C and get a speech about progress. I'd bring home an A and get asked why it wasn't an A. The funniest part is that Lily wasn't even nice about it. She'd smirk when my mom grilled me like she was watching a show. She'd do this little cough sometimes too, a fake dry cough, and my mom would instantly soften and go into nurse mode. Once Lily coughed while my mom was yelling at me, and it was like someone hit pause on my punishment. My mom rushed to her, hand on her forehead, asking if her chest felt tight. Lily leaned into it and whispered, "It hurts." My mom glared at me over Lily's head and said, "Look what you're doing to her." Like my existence was a toxin. That line stuck, because it made me feel like the bad thing in the house wasn't the favoritism or the cruelty. It was me. Middle school is when I started noticing my dad's passivity wasn't neutral. It was strategic. He'd come home, sit down, and disappear into whatever screen was closest. If my mom started in on me, my dad would do this little sigh like he was tired of the whole thing, and then he'd keep eating. Sometimes I'd try to pull him aside like, "Dad, can you talk to her?" And he'd say, "You know how your mother gets." As if she was a weather pattern, like, "Sorry, kid, it's hurricane season." One night, Lily stole $20 out of my backpack. It was money I'd earned shoveling snow for an old neighbor. I saw it on Lily's desk next to a glittery lip gloss she wasn't allowed to have. I confronted her, and she went straight into the wide-eyed, innocent act. "I found it," she said. I told my mom. My mom didn't even look up from the sink. "Maybe you shouldn't leave money lying around." I said it was in my backpack. My mom shrugged and said, "Lily has impulse issues. Be more understanding." I told my dad. He rubbed his forehead and said, "It's just money." Then he added, "Don't make your sister upset." That was my dad's religion. Don't make Lily upset. That was the sin that got you punished. So I stopped telling. I stopped asking. I started keeping my stuff hidden like I lived with a raccoon. I put my important things in a shoebox under my bed. I locked my bedroom door with a cheap latch I installed myself. My mom found it and called me paranoid. Lily found it and laughed. Then one day I came home and the latch was gone, ripped clean off the doorframe, and my mom said, "We don't do locked doors in this house." Lily was behind her making this little victorious face. That was when I realized it wasn't just neglect. It was control. They didn't want me to have anything that was mine. Not space, not feelings, not even the right to be left alone. The first big twist, the one that still feels like a punchline written by a cruel universe, happened when I was 14. We had a family meeting, which in our house meant my mom had a speech prepared, and the rest of us were props. She sat at the dining table with a folder like she was a lawyer. Lily sat close to her, knees tucked under her, looking delicate. My dad sat at the end like he wanted to be anywhere else. My mom announced Lily would be transferring schools to a private academy that understood her needs. She said the word needs like it was a weapon. Then she looked at me and said, "We'll need you to be flexible." That meant I'd be walking home from school, cooking dinner twice a week, watching Lily after her tutoring. I said, "What about my soccer?" My mom blinked slowly and said, "Adam, don't be selfish." I said I'd already made varsity tryouts. I'd been practicing every morning. My mom leaned forward, eyes cold, and said, "Lily almost died. Do you understand that? Almost died. And you're talking about soccer." The whole table went quiet except Lily, who did her little cough, just one. Perfectly timed. My dad cleared his throat and said, "Maybe you can do soccer next year." I looked at him like he'd slapped me. Next year. Like I could just pause being a teenager. Like my life was a subscription you could cancel and restart later. I quit soccer. Not because I agreed, but because there was no fight that didn't end with Lily getting sick, and my mom saying I stressed her out. The academy thing became this sacred mission, and I became the unpaid assistant. While my friends were hanging out after school, I was standing at a stove stirring spaghetti while Lily complained about how her classmates were weird and how her teachers were dumb. The miracle child hated everyone, but somehow it was still my job to make her world smooth. By 16, I was running on pure resentment and caffeine. Lily had learned the art of plausible victimhood. She'd do something awful, then act wounded when confronted. She once accidentally deleted a whole semester project off my laptop. I watched the files vanish because she thought it was funny to click around. When I freaked out, she started crying, like full heaving sobs, and my mom stormed in and screamed at me for yelling at her. Lily's crying stopped instantly the second my mom turned to me. It was like a faucet turning off. That should have been the moment my parents noticed. It wasn't subtle, it was horrifyingly obvious. But my mom didn't want to notice because noticing would mean Lily wasn't a fragile miracle. It would mean Lily was just Lily, a kid who could be mean. And my mom's whole identity was built on being the mother of a special child. The more Lily acted out, the more my mom acted like a martyr. I remember my mom cornering me in the hallway one night after Lily had stolen my headphones and snapped them. She said low and venomous, "You're lucky. You didn't have to fight for your life." Lily did. I said, "She doesn't fight for anything. Everyone fights for her." My mom's face changed, and for a second I genuinely thought she might hit me. Instead, she smiled, which was worse, and said, "You know, when you were born, it was easy. You slipped right out. No drama. Maybe that's your problem." Imagine telling your kid their birth was too convenient. She walked away like she'd won. I stood there with this weird buzzing in my ears. That was the first time I thought, maybe she actually doesn't like me. Not in the strict parent way, in the personal way. Like she resented that I existed without giving her a heroic story to tell. The summer before senior year, Lily got sick again. That's what they called it. She started complaining about her stomach, her head, her joints, everything. My mom turned the house into a hospital. There were charts on the fridge, supplements, special diets, whispered phone calls. My dad suddenly became gentle, hovering, asking Lily if she needed water. Meanwhile, I was doing double shifts at a grocery store to save for college application fees because my parents kept saying money was tight. One night, I came home exhausted and found my mom in my room. Not cleaning, searching. My shoebox was open, my things scattered. I asked what she was doing, and she didn't even look embarrassed. "I needed to make sure you weren't hiding anything dangerous," she said. Dangerous like what? I didn't ask out loud because the answer would have been whatever made me guilty. She found the cash I'd saved, a few $100s, and held it up like evidence. "So you do have money," she said. I said it was mine. She nodded like she was agreeing with a toddler. "Good," she said, "because Lily's specialist doesn't take our insurance. You can contribute." I swear my chest went numb. I said no. I said I needed it for college. My mom's eyes went hard. "College is optional," she said. "Lily's health isn't." I looked at my dad for help. My dad stared at the floor and said, "We'll pay you back." That was the moment I stopped seeing them as misguided. They were taking from me because they could. And the kicker? 2 weeks later, Lily posted a photo on social media at the mall with a new designer bag. People commented, "So glad you're feeling better." My mom commented, "My brave girl deserves it." I stood in the kitchen staring at my phone like it was a crime scene. The specialist money was a lie. Or it was real and also they still bought the bag. Either way, my savings were gone. Senior year felt like living inside a pressure cooker. I applied for scholarships in secret. I kept my acceptance letters hidden in a binder at work because I didn't trust the house. Lily's illness got more dramatic whenever my life got bigger. The week I got accepted to a state university with a decent aid package, Lily fainted at dinner. Like full theatrical collapse. My mom screamed, my dad panicked, I called 911. The paramedics checked her vitals and she was fine. One of them, a tired-looking woman, asked Lily quietly if she'd eaten. Lily said she felt weak. The medic looked over at my mom and asked about stress, about school, about attention. My mom bristled like she'd been insulted. The second the paramedics left, my mom turned on me. "You did this," she said. I literally laughed, which was a mistake. I said, "How did I do that?" She got right in my face and said, "Your selfish energy upsets her." That phrase again. Like I had radioactive vibes, she grounded me for laughing during a medical episode. I wasn't even a kid anymore, and she was still handing out punishments like she owned my time. The twist came later that night. I heard Lily in her room on the phone, giggling, not sick, not weak, just laughing. I stood outside her door and listened as she told someone, "Yeah, I totally fainted. Mom freaked out. Adam looked like he wanted to die. It was hilarious." My hands shook so hard I had to press them against the wall. I opened the door. Lily looked up, smile still on her face, and said, "Ooh, knock." I told her I heard everything. She shrugged and said, "What are you going to do? Tell Mom? She'll believe me." Then she did the cough, soft and fake, and her eyes got watery on command. I realized in that moment, Lily wasn't just spoiled, she was trained. My mom had taught her that sympathy was currency, and I was the ATM. The biggest betrayal happened on graduation day. I'd managed to keep my college plans quiet, but my guidance counselor called my parents about final paperwork because that's what schools do. My mom showed up at graduation smiling like she loved me. She hugged me in front of people, which felt like being hugged by a stranger wearing my mom's skin. After the ceremony, my counselor pulled me aside and said, "Your parents asked about the college fund account." I blinked and said, "What account?" She looked confused and said, "The 529 in your name. They said they were transferring it." I felt the world tilt. We didn't have a college fund. We were tight on money. I went home and dug through drawers like a criminal. I found the folder. There it was, an account with my name on it. Not huge, but enough to cover a couple semesters if used right. And there, stapled to the paperwork, was a transfer form already signed by my dad. Transfer beneficiary, Lily. Reason: medical and educational necessity. I confronted my dad first because I still had this stupid instinct to believe he was the reasonable one. He didn't deny it. He just looked tired and said, "Your mom thinks it's best." I said, "It's my name." He said, "It's family money." I said, "So I'm not family?" He flinched like I'd slapped him. Then he did what he always did. He went quiet. My mom walked in, saw the papers in my hands, and didn't even pretend. "Lily deserves it," she said. "You'll be fine. You're resilient." That word again, resilient, like a compliment that meant we're allowed to hurt you. Lily stood behind my mom, smirking. She said, "Thanks, Adam." Like I'd gifted it to her. Something in me snapped. I said very calmly, "I'm leaving." My mom laughed. "Where?" she asked. "You can't even afford it." And I realized she was right, but I also realized she was counting on that. I left anyway. Not dramatically, not with screaming. I packed a duffel bag at 2 a.m. and walked out. I slept on my friend Marco's couch for a week. I told his parents it was temporary. They didn't ask many questions, just fed me. The weirdest part was how quickly my body relaxed in a house where nobody treated my breathing like an inconvenience. My mom texted twice. The first was, "Come home and stop being dramatic." The second was, "Lily is having chest pains because of this." My dad didn't text at all. That hurt more than the guilt trips. I worked full-time and took community college classes because I couldn't afford the university anymore. I applied for every scholarship, every grant, every program. I learned how to live on cheap food and stubbornness. Lily, meanwhile, got the university experience I'd planned. My mom posted photos of Lily on campus with captions about dreams coming true. People congratulated my parents for raising such a fighter. I wanted to scream that the fighter was the kid working night shifts and taking classes in the morning, but I was invisible by design. Another twist hit when my aunt, my dad's sister, found out I'd left. She called me and said, "Your mother's telling everyone you ran away because you're unstable." That word made my skin crawl. Unstable. Like I was the problem. My aunt asked if I was safe. I told her the truth in pieces because saying it all at once felt unreal. She went quiet and then said, "Your grandma left something for you." I hadn't spoken to my grandma much because my mom always said she was toxic. Turns out toxic meant didn't worship Lily. My aunt told me there was a small savings bond my grandma set aside for me years ago. My mom never mentioned it. Of course she didn't. It wasn't for Lily. I met my grandma once after that, secretly, like we were doing something illegal. She was older, smaller than I remembered, but her eyes were sharp. She looked at me and said, "You have your father's face and your mother's stubbornness. That's a dangerous combination." I laughed and she smiled like she'd been waiting for it. She told me things my parents never told me, like how my mom had always wanted a special child, someone who made her look important. Like how my mom took Lily's early health issues and turned them into a permanent halo. Then my grandma dropped the twist that rewired my brain. She said, "Lily's birth was hard, yes, but your mother..." She exaggerated. She always exaggerated. My stomach flipped. My grandma said Lily had complications, but not the way my mom told it, not the life or death legend. My grandma said she was there. She saw the doctors. She saw my mom soaking up the attention. She said, "Your mother likes being needed more than she likes being kind." I went home and did something I'd never done. I requested my own birth certificate, and later Lily's medical records through a legal process my aunt helped me navigate because I was technically family. It took time and paperwork and fees I could barely afford. But when the documents came, the story didn't match the myth. Lily had issues, yes, but not the endless catastrophe my mom described. There were periods of normalcy that my mom conveniently erased. The weeks in the NICU were days. The near death was monitoring. The legend was inflated into a religion. I sat on the floor of my tiny rented room with those papers in my hands and felt something I can't even name. Relief that I wasn't crazy. Rage that my childhood was built around a lie. And grief because even if Lily had been truly fragile, it wouldn't have justified what they did to me. But the lie made it worse. It meant my pain wasn't collateral damage. It was part of the plan. When Lily found out I was talking to Grandma, she contacted me for the first time in months. Not to apologize, not to ask if I was okay. She messaged, "Hey, stop poisoning people against Mom." That was her language, like Mom was some innocent queen under attack. I didn't respond. Lily escalated like she always did. She showed up at my job. I was stocking shelves, sweaty and tired, when I heard my name in that sing-song voice. I turned and there she was, wearing expensive shoes, holding a coffee like she was in a movie. She looked me up and down and said, "Wow, this is sad." I asked what she wanted. Lily said Mom was devastated and that I needed to come home and be a family again because Dad was stressed and Lily's health was acting up. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Also, you're embarrassing us. People ask why you're not around. Mom says you're struggling." The rage that rose up in me was so hot it scared me. I told Lily in a quiet voice that I knew the truth. I told her I'd seen the records. I watched her face flicker for half a second, like a mask slipping. Then she recovered and did the thing I will never forget. She smiled and said, "Even if it wasn't as bad as Mom says, it still worked, didn't it?" Worked? Like it was an experiment. Like my whole childhood was a strategy that got results. I told her to leave. She didn't. She raised her voice so customers could hear and said, "Adam, please, you're scaring me." She said it like a line she practiced. My manager came over concerned. Lily's eyes got watery. She was performing a scene, and I was trapped in the role of the aggressor. That was when I realized I couldn't just outgrow my family. Their entitlement followed me like a shadow. The final twist before the endgame came from my dad, of all people. I got an email from him late one night. Not a "how are you?" Not an apology, just a request. He said Mom was refinancing the house and needed my signature on a form for administrative reasons. My signature? I had never been on the house. I looked closer. It wasn't just administrative, they were trying to use my identity for something. I called my aunt immediately. She told me to pull my credit report. I did, and my stomach dropped. There were 2 credit cards opened in my name. One maxed out, the other almost. The address on file? My parents' house. I felt like I was going to vomit. I called my dad shaking and asked him what the hell was going on. He went quiet, then he said, "Your mother thought it would be easier." Easier? Like I was a tool you could borrow and return. I asked if Lily knew. He said, "We did it for Lily's tuition and some medical stuff." Tuition. The word made me laugh, sharp and ugly. I told him it was fraud. I told him I could report it. He said, "Don't do that to your mother." Not, "Don't do that to us." Not, "We're sorry." Protect Mom, protect Lily, always. I hung up and sat in silence for a long time, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. That night, I filed disputes. I froze my credit. I made a police report because my aunt told me I needed documentation, even if I didn't press charges immediately. The officer asked if I wanted to pursue it, and I heard my mom's voice in my head saying, "Don't be dramatic." I said yes anyway. I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it because I finally understood something. If I didn't defend myself, no one would. Not ever. The fallout was immediate. My mom called screaming, like full scorched earth rage, accusing me of trying to ruin the family. She said I was vindictive, ungrateful, jealous of Lily's struggle. She said, and I swear this is real, after everything I survived giving birth to her, this is what I get. Like she was the victim of my adulthood. My dad texted once, "Please stop." Lily sent a paragraph about how I was abusing Mom by holding her accountable. Then my mom did what she always did. She weaponized the outside world. She posted online about her heartbreaking estrangement with a child who refuses help. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew. Old family friends messaged me things like, "Life is short, forgive your mother." They didn't know she stole my identity. They didn't know she called me convenient. They didn't know Lily practiced tears like a magic trick. I blocked most of them. The police process was slow and humiliating, but it worked. The fraud got taken seriously. My parents tried to claim it was a misunderstanding. My mom even tried to say I'd given permission and forgotten. I brought the receipts, the dates, the signatures, the fact that I'd been living elsewhere. The moment that broke me in a weirdly healing way was when my dad sat across from me in a small office during mediation and wouldn't look me in the eye. Not because he was ashamed of what they did to me as a kid, but because he was ashamed he got caught. The whole time my mom kept saying, "Lily needs this." Like Lily was a god you had to sacrifice to. I looked at my dad and said, "I needed you." He flinched like the truth was physically painful, and then he did what he always did. He said nothing. I'm 22 now, legally independent, financially independent in the scrappy, duct-taped way you are when you've had to build yourself from the ground up. I finished my degree through a mix of community college transfer credits, grants, and sheer stubbornness. I have a small apartment that's mine. The quiet in it still feels unreal sometimes, like I'm waiting for someone to burst in and tell me I'm taking up too much space. My credit is slowly recovering. The fraud case ended with my parents having to take responsibility on paper, which sounds satisfying until you realize it doesn't rewrite the past. Lily is still Lily. She still posts about resilience and hardship like she's collecting sympathy points. My mom still acts like the world owes her for birthing a miracle. My dad still hides behind silence like it's a shield. I've gone no contact. Not as a dramatic punishment, not as a revenge fantasy. As a boundary, a door that stays closed because every time it cracks open, they try to crawl in and rearrange my life around Lily again. The hardest part to explain to people is that I don't miss them like a family. I miss the idea of what they were supposed to be. I miss a version of parents who could look at both their kids and see two humans, not one halo and one spare part. Sometimes I catch myself feeling guilty, like I'm abandoning them, and then I remember they abandoned me while I was still in the house. They abandoned me emotionally, practically, morally, and then they had the audacity to be shocked when I stopped volunteering for it. If there's a resolution, it's not some movie moment where my mom cries and apologizes. It's quieter. It's me learning that my feelings are real even if my mother never validated them. It's me realizing my sister's specialness was never my responsibility. It's me sitting on my own couch after work, eating dinner I paid for in a home nobody can search, and feeling this strange, unfamiliar thing settle in my chest. Peace. Not perfect peace. I still get angry, I still grieve, but I finally get to make decisions without asking permission from the family myth. And for the first time in my life, I'm not the problem they're managing. I'm just Adam, and that's enough.